Welcome to Mastering the Natural World, a series designed to help us draw the world around us and beyond, giving us the skill and confidence we need to unlock our creative potential and boundlessly express our artistic vision. Our creative pursuit is divided into 2 seasons. In the first, we'll study humans, and in the second, we'll master plants and animals. Each episode will focus on a bite-sized category within these massive subject matters. And one by one, we'll gather the building blocks that we need to create the worlds and characters that live inside us. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, will follow a similar structure in each episode. We'll focus our attention on anatomy or structural makeup, repetition, angles and variation, color, and finally, post-mastery creativity. You'll find a free PDF download of Mastery Missions in the description box of every video. You can use it to guide yourself towards mastery of the natural world along with me. Today, we're starting with eyes because if you want to be an artist, you have to learn to see. So if you're ready to unleash your inner artist on our one-way ticket to mastery, go grab your sketchbook and let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Hello, everybody. I'm Librarian Carter, and today I'll be presenting your anatomy lesson on the beautiful eyeballs. Let's get right into it, loves. Anatomy is important because why learn it wrong when we can learn it right? In all seriousness, it's a good idea to be in the habit of using the proper anatomical structure because then our brains will have a fabulous foundational muscle memory, and that's going to improve our drawing in the long run. And as we practice, we'll start to make general observations about all faces and bodies that we'll be able to apply to our practice. We'll come up with our own systems and guides for drawing the human body. This will improve our construction, our style, our speed. That will improve our confidence. And there's nothing more important than that, babe. As you know, eyes are the prize today. Let's start with the bones of the skull, and then we'll build up from there. First up, we've got the frontal bone. It creates the forehead, the temples, and the top edge of the eye socket, also known as the brow bone. So for very obvious reasons, it's important to us because the brow bone here adds so much structure to the space around the eye. It actually creates the crease. Now moving down from there, though my presentation is severely lacking and it's hard to see my little label, this is the nasal bone. If we continue to move down and around, we get to the maxilla. The maxilla meets the nasal bone, scoops down and around, creating that curve in the bottom inner corner of the eye. The last bone of note for us today is going to be the zygomatic bone. Say that with me, zygomatic bone. This is more commonly known as the luscious cheekbone, darling. By George, I've never seen zygomatic bones like yours before. They're very appealing. The structure of your zygomatic bones is incredible. It's absolutely impeccable, love. And it connects the outer edge of the eye here back up to the frontal bone, creating the gorgeous, fully rounded eye socket. So those 4 bones are the bones that are most important to us today. Let's pop an eyeball on that, shall we? Okay, so let's go over the anatomy of the eyeball itself. Now, I know you're going to be very familiar with this, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So first up, we've got the sclera. The sclera here is just going to be the white of the eye. Next up, we've got the iris. It's the colorful bit in the center of the eye. And then, of course, we've got the pupil. Now, that's the little black bullseye, right? That little dot right in the middle of your eye. I know you know what that one is. It expands and contracts when faced with light or physiological arousal. That's right. If you're scared, bless, that bad boy's going to get big, okay? If you're in a room where there's not a lot of light, that bad boy's going to get big, okay? You know why? It's because it wants to see. It's trying to figure out the world. It wants to know what's going on around. It's trying to take it all in. You're not going to get me, mate. My pupils are bulging. I see ya. Next up is the lacrimal caruncle. It's the little tiny pink triangle. It's tempting to call it your tear duct, and I'm sure that Carter will many times throughout this video. And every time she does, go ahead and leave her a comment that says, that's not a tear duct, darling. That's your lacrimal caruncle. That way it'll sear it into everybody's brain and we'll never forget for the next time they're on Jeopardy. What is a lacrimal caruncle, Alex? You may see here that the last parts of the eyeball here are not something that I've labeled, and it's because they're nearly invisible to the human eye. The first one is the cornea. You've probably heard of this before, but it's just like this clear, transparent sheet. It goes all the way around the eyeball. Now, between the colorful part on the eye and the cornea, there's something called an anterior chamber. Basically, there's a liquid sac and it's covered over by your cornea, but it creates this little mound on the eye, and you can see it here. So do you see this highlight, how it scoops up and rounds over the iris? There is a little hill called the anterior chamber that sits on top of the iris. Now, most of the time this is undetectable, but I wanted to point it out to you guys because when it should be represented, and you do represent it, it's going to make you look like an absolute pro. There is one more bit that I want to talk about before we close up for the day. So, of course, again, a bit of general knowledge. We've got upper and lower eyelids. Now, a very important part of these eyelids are the ridges here and here, where they end, where they say, no more lids, we're going to give you a little peek out. So of course you'll also find the eyelashes attached nearby these ridges. These are called the upper and lower punctum. Say that with me now. Go ahead and get the people around you freaked out. Make them wonder. Upper and lower punctum. Upper and lower punctum. Upper and lower punctum. Yeah? Excuse me, darling, did you know? If you just got something in your punctum, something in your lower punctum, darling. That wraps up the anatomy lesson for the day, everyone. Do not forget to call Carter out in the comments when she uses the improper terminology for eye anatomy. Study those bones, everybody, and I'll be back next time you need some facts dropped. Librarian out. Love a good librarian. Yeah, if you just watch that whole anatomy lesson, you're the GOAT. I have some strong suggestions for this point in the game. The first is to draw yourself one or two before eyes. Don't use a reference photo. Just draw what you think an eye looks like from your mind. This is a record of your skill level before you embark on your mission. My progress record eyes are playing on the screen now. These eyes not only let you track your progress, but they also guide you towards your areas of opportunity. When you do find an area that you need to grow, just tailor the journey to mastering those skills. Second suggestion, reference photos. Reference photos, babe. More reference photos than you could possibly dream of. I want you to have a ton prepared for this study so that they are at your fingertips every time you sit down to draw. Again, you need a hearty collection. My favorite place for copyright-free reference photos is unsplash.com, which is getting a little and my favorite is pexels.com. If you want, you can draw my eye reference collection, some of which is used in this video. I will link it in the description box, and again, that will be on Pexels. Quick note though, I have to say my favorite thing to draw are photos that I took myself. So I started my mastery mission on my iPad because that's where I felt the most comfortable. I am not going to lie, I was shaking in my little boots, taking the risk of showcasing my incapabilities and also asking you to trust my artistic skills creates a mental barrier. But the truth is, we'll all always have something to learn in art. So here are the practice eyes that I drew to gain the confidence that I needed to loosen myself up and move forward. And that, my fearless artist, preps us for drills. So grab your creative weapons of choice and let's start finding our way to mastery. Oh, sorry, 1 second, I didn't see there. Okay, I'm about to do timed drills. My opportunity for growth is in form and perspective and making sure I get the proportions of the eyes correct. I'll do a series of 5-minute drills, a series of 10-minute drills. Hopefully that will get me really, really good at construction and creating the form. Just going through and challenging myself. Again, I cannot pre-select these eyes. I'm going to go by what's on the website so that it's more of a challenge and have to step outside of my comfort zone. I can't just work from reference images that I've chosen and feel easy to me. I believe in me. Do you believe in me? I believe in me. Anyway, grab your sketchbook. You should do it with me. Let's do it. I'm going to pop it up on the screen and we're going to have a good time. Let's go. Oh, 5 minutes is up. Oh my God, that's all I get to do. That's stressful. That's stressful. After this single attempt at drilling, it instantaneously became one of my favorite ways of learning and practicing drawing. The time limit, which I initially viewed as a stress-inducing, oppressive monster, actually comes with a lot of hidden advantages and positives that helped me grow and quickly. And let's be real, our 5 and 10-minute drawings likely won't get us anywhere near perfection anytime soon, but they produce rapid fire learning, and that's a win-win. Either you're insanely impressed with how well you did in 5 to 10 minutes, or you learned something in that time, both of which make you feel proud. The time limit helps us detach from the final product because we begin with the acceptance that it is not going to be our best work. We're already ready to let it be what it is, and that helps us laser focus on what matters the most. The placements of the lines, shapes, and shading that are most likely to make this piece of paper look like it has eyes in the next 5 minutes. Suddenly, I don't have time for perfection. I can only make it happen. And as I gained the skill to sketch the delicious structures and shapes of these eyes in only 5 minutes, I'd soon realize that I could draft eyes that were perfect to me faster than ever, leaving me more time to do what I love, which is render out the details. To me, that's where each artist really comes alive and showcasing their point of view. And this would not be a feast if I wasn't serving tips. So let me tell you what I found important and helpful during my practice. As always, draw what you see, not what you think you see. If it hasn't already, one day this will click perfectly and you're like, oh. By the way, I'm going to mail one of the original drawings from this video to the first person who leaves a comment in the comment section down below, letting me know the correct number of times that I say eyes in this video. Quick toot time. I'm going to tell you how to build the complex structure that is the eye in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The very first thing that I do is find the directional line of the eyeballs. Are they head on? 3/4 view? Completely vertical? I need to see that eye line. And then from there, I draw the spheres that represent the eyeball right on the eye line. Next, I add the irises. It's so easy to see those two shapes that they're the perfect guideposts to get started. Then I go for either the triangle in the inner corner, or I use the shape of the iris in the reference photo to find the shape of the eyelids. The question there being, what do the eyelids do that make the sclera, iris, and pupil look the way that they do in the reference photo? After that, the shape of the sphere of the eyeball will guide you to things like the location and the shading needed at the crease, as well as what the shadows under the eyes look like. And you'll have some creasing there too, depending on age. And always make sure to pay attention to the depth in the inner corner that leads up to the brow bone here. That is going to add a lot of likeness. And then it lets you follow the shape of the brow out too and find and carve out the shapes of the temple. And it shows you the shape, helps you find the shapes on the outer edge of the eye too. We're getting somewhere with that. That is a 10-minute drill, honey. Okay? Yeah, I'm proud. If I could get that far consistently in 10 minutes, I'd be proud. I would not be a mad girl. That's what I do know. After a few rounds of drills and my confidence growing, it started to happen. I could feel it creeping in. The enemy to all good study anywhere. I know you know that. Ugh. So I took that as a sign it was time to move on. Okay, because I'm not here for board girl stuff. Okay? It's not for me. That means we now get to serve Savant. I know, it's intimidating. It is intimidating. It's very intimidating. I'm often intimidated while I'm learning to draw. Yeah. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Welcome to the Savant Club. You can absolutely sit with us. I'm not even gonna lie to you, this part's gonna be hard. This is going to be a very challenging but rewarding part of our journey. We'll spend a lot of time here practicing from different angles, observing different ages and races, and making sure that we can capture an array of different emotion. I'm going to go for as much overlap as possible in this department, shaking things up and combining our categories for mastery as much as possible because your girl is here for efficiency. Be as brave as you can for this section. Push yourself out of your comfort zone by choosing reference photos that challenge your skill set. It's going to be harder that way. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off or diving into the deep end. You get to the fruits of your labor a lot faster with bold, repetitive action. You know what right now is a good time to talk about value. Value is one of the 7 elements of art, which means we use it to support our artistic fundamentals and principles. It's defined as the lightness or darkness of a color. Value allows us to take 2D shapes and bring them into the 3rd dimension, giving the illusion of depth by replicating how light and shadow interact with form in space. Mastering value allows us to communicate a ton of information to our viewer, from shape to location and spacing to mood and emotion. Value is, in my opinion, one of the most important tools for the evolving artist. As surrealist painter Dorothea Tanning said, value is essential in transforming the canvas into a space where imagination and reality can meet. So you may hear value expressed when describing individual objects, but it can also be viewed from a wider lens of how values affect a certain area of the piece, possibly creating focal points. Or you might hear how the values in the composition as a whole create poppy, vibrant contrast that makes the painting feel energetic and alive. It's a driver of not only structure, but mood and emotion, perfectly described by Louise Bourgeois when she said, "Value in art shapes the space and brings life to my forms, defining their emotional and physical presence." Which brings me to my second topic of interest, using pencil or monochromatic color schemes to start. I know, it feels so boring and limiting, but hear me out because my intentions are pure. In every episode, we've worked in a section for mastering color, so we already know we'll get to work on color theory over time. Our explorations into the world of color will be enhanced and enriched by a firm foundational knowledge of value. If you don't believe me, no biggie. John Singer Sargent is way more credible, and he said, "No one could be more passionate about color than I am, but when it comes to painting, value reigns supreme." Oh, and he also said, "In all art, and especially in painting, nothing is as important as understanding the relationship between light and dark values." Oh, and one more for good luck. The interplay between light and dark creates life in painting. Color only decorates it. So by focusing on value first, we create life at the root of our work. And by adding color later, we decorate it with our point of view. Me again. I'm here to let you know you're doing great, fabulous. And I'd like you to set up a reward system for yourself to draw. You're going to reward yourself for doing what you want. For gaining skill. Grab yourself a little container and something you really like. And when you draw, I want you to put a little bit of what you like in the container. Yep, I said that. Every time you draw, I'm not really telling you to pay yourself $20. Time you sketch in your sketchbook, okay? Let's be clear. $5 tip to the artist of the evening, some whoppers, When she's queening, reward her. If you've made it this far, pound it. I'm so proud of us. This is hard. Once we get more comfortable with challenging expressions and angles, we can move our party to the wonderful world of color. When it was time for me to start this section, I avoided it for days. Days. Yes, I was too scared to start the color section. That's what cued the avoidance. I did timed drills to regain momentum in safe territory and remind myself that I have the skills and gumption to see myself through learning, trying, failing, and repeating until I can execute in the ways that I see fit. Whenever you're stalled, take yourself back to a point of practice or anything you can do with ease and confidence where there's no pressure. This could be drills, like for me, or something like a value scale, wink, wink. Maybe practicing a series of shapes and perspective. Oh, and by the way, the box around the eyes here is to help me find perspective. A cube or a rectangle is one of the easiest things to put into perspective. And once you've found that perspective by detailing the cube, simply draw your form inside of it, and thus your form is in perspective too. But yeah, going back to a safe, easy zone will build your momentum and remind you that you're capable of overcoming the challenges and stressors of practicing and learning new skills. You'll be back on your way to mastery in no time. Color. It's massive and it seems so daunting. So I started off camera with the eyes I know best. These eyes, baby. These eyes. Where are the eyeballs? Let's see. Get it right. How'd I do? Now I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you with 5 eyes now. You better watch out. It's a really fun and interesting practice to try drawing yourself. And it does give one awesome advantage. It gives you access to the entire range of human emotion. See what I mean? On demand. For me, mastering the spectrum of emotion is the definition of mastery. A lot of my work is human and it's telling a story. I need full access to that face, baby. This is the best thing I've ever drawn on paper. I repeat, this is the best thing I've ever drawn on paper. At this point on my mastery mission, you guys, I'm feeling like a boss, like a G, like everything I've ever wanted to be. Come be my friend and we can see if we can make it all the way to mastery. Oh my God, I just made that up. Okay, I'm so sorry. By the way, you've come up with your own definition of mastery. That's what matters. But at this point in my process, it felt so good to see the hard work from these mastery missions paying off. The truth is, I was able to really relax and have a great time applying my skills and experience to solving the puzzles I've challenged myself with. The most important skill I'll need to learn in this section is the reproduction of realistic and frankly juicy, which is my personal preference, skin tones. The intense pink light on one side of the face was a great study that helped me break free of rules and assumptions I might have made without proper observation. By the way, I used Prismacolor markers and colored pencils, finding that the markers help me find saturation quicker. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to get the skin tone right on this one. Womp womp. But whoa, is this magic? Because these eyes still look great. It's not magic. It's our old friend value, which is good enough here to carry my color mistake. It makes me want to tell you about the breakthrough that took my artwork to the next level. I used to be really caught up on finding the perfect shape and the perfect form, and I'm not at all arguing against that. Still pro-meticulous on the form front. It's just that I realized there's another set of shapes that matter too, and sometimes more. Those are the shapes of the values. You see, form can look entirely different when the light and shadow move and change. Sometimes parts of your form disappear into a shadow altogether, in which case form literally ceases to matter. And as Sargent said, value reigns supreme. It's clear as day I got the color wrong here. His skin tone is totally off, but I still ended up loving this piece. The joy in his eyes is contagious and intoxicating. Can we just talk about that twinkle? I'm also really proud of the way I was able to capture the wrinkles around the eyes, reacting as his cheeks came up in his glorious smile. But as far as the color goes, one solution would have been just to test out some different color swatches. I mean, I've got the skin tone wrong, so I'm using the wrong combination of materials. I think I went in with too much yellow at the beginning, needed to go in with a more tan shade. What I'll do next time is swatch different combinations of the Prismacolor markers and the colored pencils together on a different piece of paper and figure out some cool skin tone combinations that I like. I would have been able to find the right one, and I could have used that on my final piece instead of kind of guessing. Noob stuff. She was noobin'. Oh, okay. I really struggled with these. When you're struggling, just hang in there. A lot of times art has an ugly face. But yeah, I really wanted to do this drawing justice. While I was in process, I was like, oh my God, this color is just not working at all. I worked really hard to layer my colored pencils to grasp that reflective green light on her skin in the reference photo. And to get the juicy liquid-like tears, I went in at the end with acrylic paint and just added really, really contrasty poppy white bits. So yeah, this one, making it through to the end on this one was a struggle. I didn't think I was going to get it right, but I ended up liking it. So there's power in pushing through, man, I gotta say. We've been taking in a lot of information for a solid 30 minutes. Let's just chill and observe or draw along for this one. I'll be back in a sec. Oh, snap. We made it. We're in Maverick season, baby. You are nearing the end of your quest. I am nearing the end of my quest, for eyes anyway. If you've gotten this far in the journey and you're drawing along with me, I know you're feeling really good about your skills at this point. I know there's no way that you haven't progressed. If you haven't joined yet, no worries. We'll be here all year. You can jump in anytime. If you're not ready for the Maverick challenges, just dance around in the previous categories until you're ready to join. And first up, we're going for ballpoint pens. Yeah, I said that. Ballpoint pens, baby. I'm going to start with drawing 5 ballpoint pen eyes with a reference. And then I'm going to go reference free. Thanks, guys. Anyway, clearly I'm nervous, so let's get this pen to pushing. First of all, I am truly sorry for the bouncy footage. I didn't realize it was happening while filming, and I can assure you I won't let it happen again. It actually bothers me more than it will ever bother you. The reason I chose a ballpoint pen for our first Maverick challenge is because there's nowhere to hide. We can't erase, paint, or color over our mistakes. It's just the ink and our creative problem-solving abilities. I'm a firm believer that once you can master something with ink, there's no going back, baby. The bag has been secured. But yeah, we're going to hang out in a restful way for this one, observing the values created by each little line, and I'll be back when it's time to paint. Since we've already talked about construction of eyes for sketching, as well as the importance of value, I thought now would be a good time to share all the useful tricks and observations I learned while mastering eyes. 1. Something complex, expressive, and movable like eyes are a challenge, and even after lots of experience and observation, you may still need a reference photo. It's totally normal and okay. Artists have been drawing from life and photo for centuries. It's okay to reference a photo for structure, even when you're adding a layer of your own creativity on top. It's still yours. You still made it. I did end up having to do that in this case, and that's not why I wanted this to be part of the voiceover, but I did want to clarify because previously I said I was going to challenge myself to not using one. I did have to lean on one for anatomical structure in these cases, even though the conceptual ideas were my own. This is my opinion. Use every tool at your disposal to create. I can assure you, every professional in every industry is doing everything in their power to work smarter, not harder. And you can give yourself that same permission when it comes to your artwork. If it's your vibe, no pressure, babe. 2, eyelashes are a challenge. Some tips I have: don't draw them all in the same direction. They go every which way, especially as they move across the eye, they're going to shift direction. They clump together to form a triangle shape at the bottom with a wispy collection of them pulled together at the top. Individualize the eyelashes towards the top for more realism. 3, do not be demure about the highlight, midtones, or shadows on the sphere of the eyeball itself. Eyes will rarely look pure white. Pop those pupil highlights for realistic, juicy texture. 4, the iris is rarely going to be fully round, and depending on the angle, may look more like an oval sometimes. It's also a bit blurred around the edge, and so is the pupil. And here's a list of things to include that give your eyes that realistic edge, if you can even call it that, because stylizing is a truly edgy challenge all its own. 1, the shadow under the upper eyelid. The lashes and upper eyelid cast a shadow on the eyeball. Capture it for instant depth and increased realism. 2, the shadow behind the lower eyelid, or the lower punctum. The top ridge of the lower eyelid will generally not be represented by a thick black line, though that is the vibe when we're younger. So the value would be a midtone or lighter. 3, while the crease on the top lid is easy to remember, sometimes the one on the bottom is easy to lose or forget during the detail process. I mean that little crease line. It adds a really good texture and realism, so I like to make sure it's there. We've reached the pinnacle of my eye mastery journey, and you're literally watching my dreams come true, which is mildly hilarious to me. It's just so funny that a small single eye painting could represent a long-term dream for someone. But here we are. And it's happening. Thanks for being a witness. Since I was a kid, I've admired the ability to draw and paint portraits, and I feel like I'm finally getting to a place where I can trust my skills to see me through to mastery. Maybe it's because I'm intimately familiar with my starting point. Drawing did not come naturally to me. So the progress I've made here fills me, and by that I mean I could explode with excitement to learn and paint more. Remember earlier when I said that one guy was the best thing I've ever drawn? Yeah, sorry, Charlie. Disco Mommy is officially my new leading lady. To those of you on the journey to mastery with me, keep going. I truly know what you mean when you say it's hard. I think there are things about art that can stay somewhat challenging forever, but progress really is right at your fingertips, itching to meet you at practice time. Before you know it, you'll be a faster, braver, more confident artist. Anyway, back to it. This is a mixed media piece. The skin is a gouache base that I detailed and shaded with colored pencils. I used gouache because the flat finish will hold the wax from the pencil, where the acrylics have a more satin or semi-gloss finish that will barely grab the wax. The acrylic paint's semi-gloss finish also does me a huge favor when it comes to the disco ball, in that it reflects additional light, making it look even more bright and vibrant. I really like the subject matter here. It's giving a bit of surrealism by making the everyday extraordinary. Rene Magritte, a technically profound surrealist painter, had the goal to shake us out of everyday life and what's familiar to us by making, quote, ordinary objects shriek out loud. That idea is captivating to me, and I think this eye captures that vibe. I like the way it adds so much celebration to the eyeball and to the concept of vision, sight, and perspective. It reminds me to decorate my vision, that everyone adds a little piece of mirrored glass to the collective that makes life a weird, sometimes horrifying, but ultimately fantastic party, and to marinate in it and enjoy the beauty in the world. By all means, please do tell me what it says to you in the comments section. I'm somewhat sad to say that wraps up the art for our Mastering Eyes video. Good thing there's going to be a new episode of Mastering the Natural World posted on the last day of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Not only do I hope you'll join me, I hope you're rushing to buy a new sketchbook for your practice. I'm a true believer in your creative vision, and I can't wait to see what kind of art you bring to the table easel. Okay, dad jokes. Clearly I need to go. Thank you to anyone who joined and watched until the end. Always do. I'm full of surprises. Congrats. We made it. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you'll be back for the next episode. When you reach mastery of a category or want to share your progress, upload your transformation pictures to Instagram with the hashtag MasteryWithCarter, because you know I want to be your hype girl, and I'd love to feature your work in a future video if you'll let me. Oh, and I appreciate you watching till the end. There's a clue somewhere in the video that reveals the focus category of the next episode. Leave me a sneaky little comment down below if you figure out what it is. It'll be our little secret. I hope you're proud of yourself with all of these awesome skills that we have learned in this episode, and by staying committed to something that you want to learn. I will see you guys very soon with more missions for mastery, and until then, go use your powers for good.